Hello, welcome back to another episode of Be Loved. So glad you're joining in again. I'm just going to get started right into it because I have been so looking forward to this time with this couple. I love how God just connects people. And Gina and I met at a women's event at our restaurant. And she gave her a short testimony, and I just didn't ever forget it. And so I was excited to be able to bring them on the podcast today. And I know you all are going to be so blessed. And I'll just kind of give a little background about kind of their journey and what you're getting ready to hear. They have just been on a journey that no parent ever expects to go on. But they have learned how to love with boundaries through an addiction with one of their sons. And I think what makes me so excited about sharing their story, it's a great story, but of what God, how God teaches us and how we can depend on him even through the hardest of times. He's always there. But they also offer some hope. And I'm just excited for you all to hear this. And I pray that if you're sitting here listening to this today and you're maybe quietly experiencing fear, shame, exhaustion because you've been dealing with a loved one that has addiction, I know you're gonna find some hope today, and they have some answers that for you. And so that's one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you guys. So today we have Barry and Gina Copeland. They're not related to Kenneth Copeland. I just ask them that, and they get asked that all the time. Although they have been and are still in ministry.
Yeah, to a degree.
Okay.
We're retired.
Yeah, we're retired.
Okay, retired.
Yeah.
Okay, so they also walked this road while they were fully immersed in ministry. And so that takes it to a whole other level. And of trying to deal with all of this. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn it over to you guys. I want you to maybe start out, because I don't even know what type of ministry you guys were involved in. And I know we really never retire from ministry, because I know you all are ministering every single day to people that you run into.
We do podcasts.
You do podcasts. Yes, you do. And I heard, so that was the other thing.
That's
Not
right.
our own.
Not our own, but we do podcasts.
But you need to, because your story needs to get out there. Yeah, so you're still ministering for sure. But just kind of tell us, I'm interested in what type of ministry you all were involved in all those years.
You want me to go first? You're looking at me.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, first, let's just say,
ahead.
we've been together how long? 46
Oh,
years?
a long time.
Oh, that's
Yes.
awesome.
46 years. And we just have our two sons, and they're twins. They're fraternal twins, so they're nothing alike. And the reason we just have two is because I had a horrible birth experience. So we're like, thank you, Lord, we're done. Buy one, get one free. And
You learn God's will. Sometimes it's just
painful.
right there. It's right there in front of you.
So anyway,
Oh,
that's just a little bit about us from
Yeah.
our background.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so we met in college.
Okay.
We went to Evangel College, and it's Evangel University
In
now.
Springfield?
In Springfield.
That's where my daughter just graduated.
Is that right?
Years ago.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
that's where
Well,
met
we
her.
were there way before her.
Yeah.
Way before her. But anyway, we met there, and got married, and I was a broadcast major. Pretty much immediately went into Christian radio broadcasting, and then I worked for a national publication, a magazine, but I was always in the marketing and promotions part, fundraising, that kind of thing, and did a number of those kinds of things. And so then also, but I guess before I retired, I managed a Christian radio network for 15 years. And that was an amazing experience. And so
Where was that?
the stations are in Illinois, Indiana, Missouri.
And where are you from?
I grew up in Alton, Illinois, which is by St. Louis, near St. Louis.
How about you?
We could have a whole nother podcast on my background, but basically we'll say Springfield, Missouri. I went to high school and college
Okay.
there. So
Okay.
yeah. Yep.
She's an Air Force brat. That's why she said
Okay.
it. So,
My son-in-law's in the Air Force. I want to make sure that that microphone's not in front of you, Barry.
oh, I'm fine.
Blocking
Yeah,
your
it's good.
your.
I just look like a talking microphone
No, you
if I can
don't.
line it up just right. So anyway, so yeah, I was in, did that up until just before COVID,
Okay.
and been retired since then, which means I've never worked so hard.
Yes, I hear that all the time.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
what about you?
So yeah, I was. This was back before graphic design, when it was really a thing, and so therefore I was a journalism and art major, and I
Wow.
taught high school for a couple of years, and then went into the graphic design side of art, and which really suited me. Really, I mean, I love teaching and have always kind of continued that. Was youth group sponsor and all that kind of good stuff over the years. And so my first job after teaching was with a publishing company that did religious publishing. So I worked for them for 5 years before getting pregnant and then having twin boys. Childcare was going to be too much. And so that's when I started freelancing out of my house. When they were 4 years old, I started freelancing and then grew that into a design business, a graphic design business that then grew into a full service ad agency. And this was back in the day, in the 90s when Branson was very booming. And so those were my main clients. I did a lot of the entertainers at that time, just loved it. It was so fun. So Roy Clark, Mickey Gilley, Mel Tillis,
Really? Oh my goodness.
Mo Bandy, Bob Eubanks.
Mo Bandy comes in our restaurant, him and his wife.
Do
Are you
they?
kidding
I would
me?
love
They
to see
do
them
often.
sometime.
Yeah, they are the nicest.
Oh my gosh. Yes, super nice. I
Really?
haven't seen him for
Well, I'll
30
introduce
years.
you to him.
yeah. See if he even remembers.
Yeah, I'm
But
sure he will.
but anyway, so and then when our boys were 12, we had made the decision, because I remember my youth, that one of us needed to be home when they got home from school, because that little bit of hour and a half, 2 hours is when a lot of things can happen. And and at that time, the Branson scene was changing, and, I just wasn't I felt like it was time to move out of that. And so I ended up selling my agency to one of my employees, and she took it and did great with it for a long time. And then I started consulting. And then from there, I did some work for an agency in St. Louis. And so then they ended up giving us an offer that we really couldn't refuse. And so we moved up there. And it was right before our sons were in their freshman year.
Okay.
And we had promised them, because, all they really knew was Springfield, Missouri. And so here now we're going to St. Louis. And we really made a promise to them that if after 1 year they wanted to move back, that we would.
And that would be a big change, I think.
Yeah,
St. Louis,
yeah.
from
Oh, big
Springfield
time.
to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they ended
They
up
liked
loving
it.
it, and and
Good.
flourished and all of that. So anyway, I've just been in advertising and marketing, and then in trying to think, probably would have been in 2008, I guess. I was back to consulting, and it was really interesting because I was working on a pretty big project for Intercontinental Hotel Group, and I would just wrap that up, and it was like the Lord turned off the faucet on all of my secular work, and then all of a sudden I had these opportunities to work with missions organizations and help them in their communications and in organizational leadership, just helping them, figure out their brand, their key messaging, that kind of stuff. And that was just so great. I mean, I did that for about 10 years and got to travel, to had work in Africa and in Europe and in Asia. He did sometimes.
Yeah. And then radio allowed me to travel too. So sometimes we're able to put the two together.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah. It was fun.
So anyway, and then then we retired right at COVID, basically.
Our world got small.
Yes, it did. Yes. Well, we ended up, his dad was in his 90s.
Yeah.
And so we just felt like we needed to take care of his dad. So we ended up doing that for several years, thinking
We
that
went
it
back
would
to the
only
farm.
be, yeah.
We literally went back to the farm. We bought a fifth wheel, an old fifth wheel, thinking he wasn't going to last that long.
You know, because you think, oh, well, how long will we really
He's
do this?
93.
You know, a couple
Wow.
years,
92,
you know.
whatever.
Well, 6 years later, we were still in that
Wow.
fifth wheel, but it was great. He did so well, and he passed away 73 days shy of 100, and
Oh my
you know,
goodness.
Never had to live in a home, or
No,
he died
just-
at the house.
Yeah.
So,
So so we
Wow.
really even look at that
Yep.
that was a time of ministry.
Yeah,
You know, I
it
mean,
was.
we have no
Absolutely.
regrets about doing that. It was lovely.
Mhm.
And so anyway, and we've both been still involved with ministry, and you know, we'll talk about, of course, our Finding Hope ministry later on as we go through our time here today. But so anyway,
Yep.
small groups have always been a big part of what we do. We love
Yeah.
small group
Okay.
ministry. And
Yep.
so,
Are you doing that here?
well, that's something I want to talk about, because I know that Finding Hope is always looking for new face-to-face locations, and we do
Okay.
an online version of it
Okay.
because of, you know, we've just been here for a year. And so
Okay.
anyway,
Yeah.
there's some,
our meetings that we have are via Zoom.
Mhm.
Yes.
And we had started that when we were in
which I
Illinois.
do. I love that too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Well, so then the people that don't have local groups are able to be a part of
Yes.
it. So
Yeah.
we have people from all over the country, and there's people, even we've had them from overseas that are
Mhm.
part of it.
Wow.
So
Mhm.
well, I'm
Like,
super.
you never know who's going to
You
tune
don't
in, you know.
No, and I know that this is ordained by the Lord, and there's going to be some people who are going to connect up
Mhm.
with you. I mean, I'm excited to see what
Mhm.
happens, but so I am really excited for everybody to kind of hear more about what that's about.
Yeah.
But let's go back to maybe, I don't know where you guys want to start talk about your two, you know, you
Mhm,
had
the journey,
twins,
yeah.
and kind of where you want to start in this journey.
Okay.
So-
All right. The one thing that's interesting of our two boys, Kyle, who's our loved one that has addiction issues, they were both premature, but he really had some health issues right at the very beginning. Nothing that really was ongoing. But I don't know. I know for me as his mom, I remember holding him when he was teeny weeny, and just feeling like he got this look in his eyes that was different than his brother, and I'd always say, "Oh, he's seeing angels again. He's seeing angels, I don't know,
Really?
and he was the toughest baby. He was colicky. And so here we have these two twins, and he would not sleep at all until maybe 4 or 5 in the morning. And then Drew had been sleeping all night. So then Drew's waking up ready for the day, And so it, there was differences in them right from the beginning,
Yeah.
But interestingly enough, his substance of choice is alcohol, and they each tried their first drink. I think they were 15 at a party, like a lot of kids do, just experimenting at a house party kind of thing. And little did we know that at that moment, that how it affected Kyle was vastly different than how it affected his brother. And frankly, for years, that was kind of a contention point with Drew, because Drew didn't understand, and Drew would be like, this is, I don't understand this. We both had the same drink at the same party. I'm not an alcoholic, but later on, Kyle explained to us, he said, when I had that first drink, he said, it was like comfort food to me. He said, it was like my body said, oh, this is what you've always wanted.
That is wild.
Yeah. And it makes sense because, my father was an alcoholic and an addict and made a lot of bad decisions, and so, and we do know that the tendency towards addiction can be passed down,
Yes.
Through our DNA. And so that's really the answer to it, that Kyle got sadly got that DNA. Drew did not. And,
Mhm.
And it was an anxiety issue.
yes.
But he
on
took
top
that
of it-
drink and suddenly
Yes.
those anxieties went away.
Right.
So he was self-medicating. That's really what
Yeah.
it came down to. And that's very common.
Yeah.
Mhm. And we
Yes.
didn't even realize it because he was the
Mm-mm.
kind of kid that everything came easy to him. I mean, he was a great athlete. He was good scholastically. He's good artistically, you know. And it's really interesting because as we have talked to more and more people who have loved ones who are prone to addiction, it does seem to be that they are creative, very caring,
Mhm.
very tender, very intuitive, warm, you know, just kind of people magnets oftentimes, not when they're using,
Yeah.
but at the heart of who they are, you know. And I think maybe it is because they do have that sensitivity that's greater than a lot of people. And so then the hardships of life affect them a lot more, you
Mhm.
know, and so then therefore they're looking for a way to cope with it because it's like so much, they feel so much, you
Mhm.
know. And so again, we're not addiction counselors or therapists, so maybe that's all a bunch of hogwash. But but it
Well,
seems like that's what a
experience,
lot
so,
of
yeah.
people, you know, when we talk to our friends and our group members, you know, that they're just like, yeah, you know, we would have all thought that these people would have just risen to the top, you
Yeah.
know. And
Mhm.
so anyway.
So Kyle went off to college. He had
Mhm.
academic and athletic scholarships. You know, he had a bunch of he had a lot.
9. We visited 13 schools and 9 scholarships for soccer
Wow.
and for
Yeah.
academics. But
So anyway, it was during that time. I don't know if it was the pressure of all playing ball in college, or I don't know what it was.
mhm.
There's
But
definitely pressure.
But he
doing
was
that.
he was off. He was off. You know, in another state, doing that. And so, but during that time is when he. There was a lot of stuff went on that we're
Mhm.
not going to get into because there's not time for
Mhm.
that. But
just
but
over those years.
over
yeah.
those years, he had a
Just
lot
searching
of,
for purpose.
and he had some traumatic things that happened to him.
Mhm.
So all that's
During high school?
no,
or
this
No,
is
during-
college.
So during his high school years,
Mhm.
you said his first drink was at 15.
Mhm.
Was he drinking a lot in high school? And
He was
or-
dabbling in weed, but
little, yeah.
but drinking was a regular thing.
Yeah.
But we didn't know it at the time.
No, we really didn't.
And I guess even to this day, I don't know that we know how much, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because again, he
No, we don't.
really understood. He was never like, I'm going to go party kind of guy. Because he would tell us,
No.
and other people would
That's
say,
right.
he'd go to a party and not drink the whole evening. And then, you know, maybe like when he was 18 or 17, we'd hear something out on the deck at 2 a.m, and there he'd be by himself drinking, you know.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, so he didn't do it out of social
Yeah.
things.
Or peer pressure.
No, never peer
Wow.
pressure, none of that. Now that doesn't mean that because now he's explained to us that his mind can start obsessing about it. So
Yep.
I mean, there's
Yep.
that association, but not because all the friends are doing it, so I'm going to.
Yeah.
Because I think he really understood that he didn't, you know, that's not a road to go down, and he
Yeah.
never wanted to be an example or, you know, that party animal of, hey, let's go.
Yeah. So we don't know. You know, the roots were planted then.
But
and-
but we really didn't have a lot of issues.
Well, not until he was in Colorado and on his own.
Yeah, college.
And his
well.
girlfriend called and just said, "You need
Yeah.
to come get him. He's hiding drinks in the bushes. He's going for walks. You know, so he's got that kind of stuff." And so, you know what the thing was for us, and again, this is about our
Mhm.
journey, is you don't want to admit to yourself that that's really happening,
Mhm.
even though it's happening right. Everybody else can see it, but you don't want to say, "Oh, my son is an alcoholic."
Well, and it was just so foreign to us,
It was,
because of my dad. I never wanted alcohol in the home. We never had alcohol in the home, never drank, you know. I mean, it just was not part of our culture
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah, same with my family.
Now, one thing I will say though, when we moved to St. Louis, This would have been in the 2000 is when we moved there. Anheuser-Busch, and they're still a big employer, but this is when the family still owned the company. It was a major employer, so man, it's very much part of St. Louis culture. It just is, So a lot of our friends, they work there, and with that, they got to bring home just pallets of beer, and so our boys were around that culture where it became norm, even though it wasn't norm in our house.
Right.
So and maybe got and I don't know, you'd have to interview them, but maybe got the impression of, well, yeah, you can drink and not, and it's all okay. And we don't believe that just drinking in itself is a sin,
Right.
but it is giving over to it where it becomes a life controlling issue.
Right.
And then you have someone like Kyle who
is prone
first-
to that. Yes.
it was just like his first time, and it was like, oh my goodness. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not normal for a lot of people.
Right.
Can drink, and
Doesn't
it's
affect
okay,
them
like
that.
your other son.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
So now we're 20 years down the road from then, and it's still an issue, and always will be an issue for him. And that's the way, once you're an addict, you're always an addict, unless of course God can step in and take that away,
heal.
and totally,
And we
and
know-
that has happened.
Yeah, we've heard
Sure.
stories of friends where
But
that
normally,
but
that's not the story.
right.
yeah,
And so Kyle has been in and out of rehabs over and over. That is very common, even for addicts who get clean and stay clean. What is it? They'll say 10 to 12 times they'll be in and out of a rehab unit. So a lot of times people like us, we feel like, oh, they've gone in for a 7-day thing or a 30-day program or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, there's a lot more to it. And that 7 days and that 30 days doesn't get it.
Yeah.
And
But sadly, as family members, you just think, oh, yay, okay, they're going to come home and they'll be fixed and it's going to be great.
Yeah.
And again, we'll talk about finding hope in a little bit, but we had a woman come to our meeting just probably 3 months ago, 4 months ago. And she had come, his first time being there, and she's listening. And we're talking, and that night we were talking about what happens and we won't get into all this here, but the brain literally rewires the chemicals for addicts. The brain is rewired, and what happens is their instinct for survival, literally survival, is to have a drink or to have a fix. I mean, that's why they don't eat. That's why they don't have sex. They don't have anything. All they can think about is getting high or getting drunk or whatever you want to call it. And so all that to say is this lady who was part of this group, we're talking about this, about the head, and her husband had gone into a 7-day rehab, and she was trying to know came to our meeting to learn what to do when he gets out. And she just suddenly said, are you telling me that this journey's not over? That
it was heartbreaking.
Yeah,
she really thought, what? I mean, it was like this light bulb moment for her of, what? It's not over now?
Wow.
Yeah. And she never came back after, and which is sad that she didn't, because I hope that she's not having to deal with it now, but it's very likely that she is. Okay. All that to say is it's a very controlling. Back in the day when they called it demon rum, I'll tell you what, I think that was the perfect answer for what that really is. I really do. When it gets to that point that it controls your life, it's one of Satan's greatest tools to just destroy homes and families. The average addict impacts 25 to 27 people.
Wow.
And to a degree.
Yeah,
And
because
then,
you look at their family members, you look at their coworkers, you look at their children or their spouses,
employers,
friends,
right. Exactly.
And all the people want to give them a break, say, okay, buddy, we like, we're going to give you a break. And then, that stuff gets in the middle of it and messes it up. So anyway, it's a horrible,
and it is a disease.
It is a disease.
A lot of people, and we did for the longest time till we learned. So often I think we think of it as a moral failure. They just need to say no. They just need to pull their boots up from the bootstraps and come on,
Mhm.
say no and keep going. you
And
know?
as
And-
parents, we sit here and think, what did I say? What did I do
Yes.
wrong in raising them? And, again, they're twins. And we've got twins. One's an addict, one's not. They had their first drink same time. They went to the same parties. Drew had a lot of those kind of moments going through college and whatnot. But he's not an addict, So again, it has to do with biology. It has to do with a lot of things. And so whatever it is, one of the things we say in Finding Hope is it's not your fault. And this is talking about the parents and loved ones.
Yes.
That it's not your fault. You didn't cause it. But there is hope. There is hope, and there's a way out. And so for us, our thing was, it was such a roller coaster and the families, loved ones of addicts. You get caught up in the chaos of their addiction, and it is just like this. And I mean, you go up and down, and you become codependent on them. You emotionally live through all the things they're going through, but at the same time, they're maybe in some ways they're not suffering as much because they're getting high and escaping. You're living it. You're staying with it. You're staying with it the whole time.
Wow,
you're
that's
very,
so-
and you're sitting there fretting about it, and they're passed out. So they're like, they're not having a problem because you aren't medicating.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really hard. And it can literally control your life. We had a lady just the other night in our meeting that she just said, she goes, I don't want to be morbid. She goes, but I'm tired of this life. If God would just take me right now, I'd be happy. I'd be happy if he did. He goes, I don't want to sound morbid. I'm not praying to die. I don't want to get hit by a car, but I'm tired of it. I'm worn out.
You know, I have a girlfriend, and she's been on here and given her story. And one of the things for many years, and I walked through the journey with her, a few years of it when we lived next to one another. But one thing she said was, Christmases and all the family celebrations. And she's like, I just didn't want to do any of it.
That's
it
right.
just wasn't. Everyone else is over here, and they're just, it's so fun. And they're just looking forward to all the parts of it. And I just didn't want, none of that was special to me.
Right.
And so I just was thinking when you were talking about that, like, you're the loved ones are the ones really who are just so suffering because you're watching your child who has so much in them, to have a great life. And so, I talk a little bit about, I remember part of your story that I had listened to. He had been to several rehabs, and I think most of them were more Christian based.
Yeah, all but one.
Yes. And so then you found one. So talk about how you went to several, and then you found this one, maybe in St. Louis or somewhere, that kind of gave you more insight. Can you talk about that? I thought that was just so insightful, what you learned there.
Well, this was during COVID, and Kyle wanted help again, and that's what's so great. I mean, one thing I guess we would say to anybody out there, if your loved one continues to try and want help, that's amazing.
That's it.
And don't ever give up hope or ever look at it as, oh, well, that's never worked, because one of these days, it could work.
And it is their choice. You can't make them
That's right.
get sober.
It's
but if they want to,
Right. And so anyway, a friend of ours is a therapist in St. Louis. And so we called him and said, hey, do you know of a good place? Where should he go? And so he told us about this place in St. Louis called Harris House. And he said, now it's secular based. But he said, and it's just a 30-day program. It's not, and sometimes depending on insurance and stuff, I mean, it may only be a 10-day program depending on what, but regardless, he said it is probably the premier thing in St. Louis. And so what was so great about that one for us, that although our son had been in other sober living homes and in other faith-based treatment centers, they had never had anything to offer the families for support. Whereas this time, and because it was during COVID, it was a Zoom, but they offered for the family members twice a week meetings for them, and where we started learning exactly what Kyle was learning. And this is the first time that we heard that, his brain is different than ours now. We didn't realize that, so it was so much of the science side of things that was just like light bulb moments for us. We're like, oh my goodness.
Which I think would have to have taken away from the times when, I want you to tell this one part of the story in a minute, but where you're thinking, you're in ministry and you're thinking, what did we do? What did we not do? Where did we fail? Where you're blaming yourself so much. And then plus you're in ministry. So then you're even having more probably guilt, or I don't know, like what are people thinking or saying, or,
Right. Yeah. As far
I don't know. I mean,
I traveled. I worked with some churches. I was in Christian radio. I was in Christian music radio, and but also worked with helping coach leadership teams and that kind of thing. So anyway, I remember one of the times that I was in Chicago. We had met with these 3 churches and their leadership teams, and we were working through their strategies and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. And we had a great meeting, and for whatever reason, I had a key part in that meeting, and they were patting me on the back. And I remember leaving that meeting and heading down I-55, heading back south, and thinking, because again, I'm at the point where I'm keeping my son's addiction quiet. I'm trying to save his reputation. He's going to come out of this, and he's not, if we can just keep it quiet. And I just remember thinking, if those people, I'm helping them figure out how to lead their churches, but if they knew what a mess my house is, and that's my fault, I was taking the blame, and it was horrible. Horrible moment for me. It's a wonder I didn't crash in the car right then.
Was that the time that you said you just yelled his name? Like, is anyone?
Well, that was a different trip.
That story.
There was that did happen. I was at the end of it. I just didn't know. It was like, okay, I keep praying and praying. God, why don't you step in, do something? And finally, it's like, I got to get your attention for gosh, several hundred miles, couple of hundred miles anyway. I literally just kept saying my son's name over and over to God. And it was just wake up there, trying to get God's attention.
I love that.
Yeah.
Because that's all you needed to do. To think that all you had to do was just, and not that God came down and rescued everything and made everything different at that moment, but you knew, you kept yelling and pursuing God with your son.
Yeah, that core guttural level. Yeah.
And
I don't know you didn't know what else to say. We've said it all 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Let's keep at it. So again, it's one of those things, but a lot of that again was before we had learned how to get off the roller coaster. And we were living on that roller coaster. And
so, and I think if other people are feeling that, then they probably do need to look at, because when people would talk about codependency, and even still now, I mean, we were codependent in some ways, of course, but we also we didn't give him money, we knew that there's a lot of things that because we had heard the term, well, they have to hit their bottom. So we knew that we didn't need to, rescue him from that bottom. But yet there were other things that we did, and being codependent of that. When he was having a good day and, oh no, I haven't drank for a week, then we're like, yay, we're having good days
we're
too.
On our way.
Or then when he crashes, we're in the doldrums again, and so it's all dependent on, And this can happen not just with addiction, but so many people are
Sure.
in codependency where their day and their life is all about somebody else's, and
That's
it just
good.
follows
Sure is.
this path together when it shouldn't,
No.
because I know you're really into who we are in Jesus,
Mhm.
and we have our own identity, and
Yeah.
our identity should never be attached to somebody else's
Mhm.
identity and their journey.
Yes.
We can love them, of course, and be concerned for them, but not like attached to it that we're doing it with
Yeah.
them. So,
Which I think a lot of people listening to this is probably and going through this journey with someone addicted or whatever, or codependent in whatever way. How did you recognize that you were?
mhm,
And then what steps did you take
mhm.
to kind of
Okay.
Well-
break free from the codependency?
Yeah, well, again, we go back to Harris House
Right.
when we were on the Zoom meetings, and we learned what was happening with the brain, and then we realized you're able to identify that it's the disease that's a problem. It's not our loved one.
Mhm.
Our loved one's still in there, and he's he's doing he's just caught up in this thing, but it's that brain. There's a movie. What's the name of the movie?
Pleasure Unwoven.
Yeah, there's a movie called Pleasure Unwoven, and you can
Documentary.
see it, and it's
Pleasure
on
what?
Pleasure Unwoven,
Unwoven.
and it's now available on YouTube. Which
It wasn't for a long time.
Yeah, no,
And
is
who
it?
knows? I mean, hopefully it still is. I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
But
You can look.
otherwise, you have to buy the DVD or buy a Vimeo subscription to
Yeah.
watch it. But
Pleasure Unwoven. Okay,
You're right.
I want people to remember that.
And that it's a movie that was created by a physician who is also an addict, who's recovering addict. And in that film, he has he tries to jazz it up so you can kind of understand how the brain works, and in one scene he does this Western scenario of they're at a bar, the two guys, it's the old West scene, and this guy's got they're standing there, and he says to the alcoholic, he says, I'm going to give you a free glass of whiskey. He says, you can have it. He goes, but if you drink that, I'm going to shoot you in the brain and you're going to die. And he says, most addicts will turn around and leave. But what's going on, and as opposed to what's going on in your head, like for any of us, we would say,
well, that's ridiculous.
yeah, of course, I'm going to get out of here. I'm not going to do this. This guy's nuts. What's going on through the addict's head is, I wonder if there's really bullets in that gun. I wonder if he really will shoot it. I wonder if not. And you start making these excuses of trying to figure out how to get that drink.
Mhm.
So their brain is taken over. It's this inner core. It's the compulsive part of the brain is what it is. It's that thing. The reason why I buy a Reese's peanut butter cup when I'm at Dollar General.
Yeah.
I don't think about it.
Chocolate donuts.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. I'm not going to think about it.
Yeah.
I just grab that sucker, And so it really is. It's a compulsive part. And I remember at one of our meetings, Finding Hope meetings, face-to-face thing, we were at, it was a bunch of men, and this is Finding Hope leaders, this meeting was, and we're sitting there, but one guy, his wife was speaking at this event because she is the loved one, but he's the addict, and he's sitting at our table. And one of the guys said, he goes, talking about their loved one, he said, I don't understand why they keep choosing to drink. They know it, And the addict said, he goes, they're not choosing. Well, but they have to be making a choice. They're grabbing the drink. He said, no. He goes, I'm telling you, you'll be sitting there and it's there. Next thing you know, you're drunk and you don't know, how did you even get there?
Wow.
It literally is. So we can't understand it.
Mhm.
I mean, the guy kept saying, yeah, but you're choosing. He said, it's still a choice. No, he says, it's not. He said, it's
One
weird.
thing we
It's hard to
say
understand.
is, I've had some healthcare clients and stuff, and have learned about different diseases, and I think it's similar to type 2 diabetes in that oftentimes, not like type 1, but type 2 is generally happens because of lifestyle choices people make, of what they're eating, what they're putting in their body, lack of exercise, whatever.
Mhm.
And so initially, it's not a disease. Yeah, if we just kept eating peanut butter cups and nothing else, well, eventually we're going to have type 2 diabetes. And now it's a disease. And now we don't have control any longer.
Yeah.
It has come into disease. And a lot of studies show, just as in addiction, as in type 2 diabetes, well, if you can change that behavior, that can be reversed. It can be reversed.
Yeah.
And it's the same with addiction.
That's-
Your
yeah.
body can heal from it if you make different lifestyle choices, but it's not easy.
Mhm.
When we back to Harris House, one of our counselors in our sessions, and again, it's the same counselors that are working with their clients in the rehab center. She was a former addict, and she goes, you have to understand, she said, when they are giving up their substance, she said, this is more important than giving up their lover, giving up their parents, giving up their children. This is the thing that has always been there for them, has always seen them through their hurts, has always helped them when they're full of anxiety,
Wow.
And so she was just like, you have no idea how hard that is. And now we have such a respect for anybody who fights that, because again, the thing that happens, another thing that happens with your brain is your dopamine levels get all messed up. So like, I don't know if we can picture a little square here and say midway up is the dopamine level that's normal for most of us. So we go along, and what gets that up? Oh, we had lunch with one of our friends we haven't seen for a while. That was so much fun. Oh, we went for a hike in the woods. Oh, that was so great. Oh, I got to have my favorite brownie just now. That was so lovely. So we have those little things that happen that give us those little spikes of joy.
Mhm.
Well, then what happens though, when our brain is given a substance that gives far more dopamine than we can ever produce in our bodies, that shoots way up here, way past. And the brain goes, oh my goodness, that was fantastic. Let's remember that because that was really great, And so, of course, then the next time that opportunity, the brain immediately is like, oh, remember? That drink was really fun, or wow, that crack was really great. Let's do that again. And then sadly, all those things that used to bring them joy no longer do that because they don't get that joy until they feel way up here. So the mid-range is gone. And that's that's the other thing that breaks my heart for those that are struggling, because it takes the brain a long time to settle down and get leveled out again. And so, like, again, this same counselor, she said, so the things that used to give me joy, for the longest time didn't. But she said, we just tell the clients, fake it till you make it, So think about who you used to be. If you used to like to go hiking, you do it. And sorry to say, it may not give you any joy, but one day it will, Or if you used to love to cook and create recipes, you're going to feel flatline doing it now, but one day it will, So you just think, I think, oh my goodness, can you even imagine having to do things and hoping that you'll feel that joy and you're not, but you just have to stick with it.
Yeah.
So again, what kind of respect that we should give to people who have made it, and are
Yeah.
doing
Been able
it.
to kick it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things they did in those centers like that, they'll they have them write a letter, a kind of a goodbye, dear John letter to their addiction, to their,
Okay.
and they can get very moving for them. It's very emotional for them. And in Finding Hope for the loved ones, we actually have an exercise where we write a letter to the addiction and how much we hate the addiction and what you've done to us, how you have.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And that puts the focus off our loved one as a
Right.
person, so we're not angry at them.
Yeah.
We're angry
I
at
think
this disease.
that's what your message,
Yeah.
when I heard it the first time,
Mm-hmm.
was so powerful to me, because it wasn't about the person.
No.
And when and it wasn't about you and what
No.
you did or didn't do as parents or loved ones. And I just felt like it just changed the whole thing for me.
Yeah.
Well, again, our loved ones, we all screw up. We all have problems. My problem is chicken fried steak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean,
I do.
It's that kind of thing. But my problem doesn't destroy my life. It doesn't have to impact others as much. I'm not saying it doesn't impact people, but it does. And so anyway, all that to say, it just happens to be that our son's issue is just so much more public, and more embarrassing and more whatever. It's tough.
Because people do look at it like a weakness.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes,
when
again,
it's
a
not
moral
weakness,
failure. They just
we all
and
have
that's not-
we all have a weakness.
We all have a weakness.
We all have
Right.
weaknesses,
Or
and
two or three or four.
Right, exactly, and to understand and realize that my sin is no less than their
else.
sin, or anybody else's sins, and I know that is a hard pill to swallow, to think that God's grace, when a sex predator, asks for forgiveness and says, I want to change, God hears that and forgives that and empowers him just as much as he does me. And I think we don't like to hear that a lot of times, because we feel like that's not fair, but that's just God's grace, and so I think, again, that Harris House experience helped us because, again, we had a small group of other loved ones that we were learning with them, we could process with them, because of our small group ministry. I mean, we did that
for 50 years
since we were newly married. And so oftentimes someone would be telling a story that actually would maybe make our story seem like the Leave It to Beaver household, and so our thing was, can we just stop and pray for this person? And of course we can't, that wasn't their setup. And so when that was over after that month, and I will say the neat thing about them, though, once you are invited into that, we could go back today. And that was 3 or 4 years ago, maybe longer,
COVID, so.
And so for our lifetime, if we ever need to log back in and meet with them, we can, which is so lovely. So, but from there, we started Googling faith-based support group for families of addicts. Couldn't find anything. And so we were like, well, all right, I guess we're going to have to just start something on our own. And I guess we'll have to build our own curriculum because we just felt like God wanted us to do this. So start looking. We found a book on Amazon called Finding Hope. And the subhead was something like I should have brought one with me, a field guide for families of addicted loved ones. And thought, well, this will be good. And then the other thing that was so cool about it is that the main author, Lance Lang, who is now the founder of Hope is Alive Ministries, and Finding Hope is under that ministry umbrella. But he wrote the main part of every chapter, and then his parents, his dad was a pastor. And his parents then at the end of every chapter, one of them would say, okay, while Lance was thinking and going through his deal, this is where we were.
Oh my goodness.
And so through that, and then at the end of the book, it said, through our journey, this is when Finding Hope was founded.
Wow.
And so if you're interested in a support group, go to this website, and we're like, yay, we don't have to do this on our own, And so Finding Hope is a national organization. I think are they international now? I know they're moving that direction because is it in Canada or someplace?
Well, that and one of our
Mexico.
One that attended, they're definitely in Mexico.
Yeah. But anyway, so it is a faith-based support group that, you know, sometimes if people are familiar with Al-Anon, and Al-Anon is great, but this is faith-based. So it's the science that we learned at Harris House
Mhm.
combined with what does the word say, and we can pray together and encourage each other. And
I love
so
that.
yeah, it's really, really good. And they have, the curriculum is all done. So they have 2 years of curriculum put together, and so it's so easy. So anyway, all that to say, we decided, okay, we're going to do one of these groups, and we signed up to be Zoom leaders because, again, we were in Illinois with his dad, and didn't know how long are we going to be here. We're going to be here a year. We're going to be here 3 years. We don't know. So that way, with Zoom, we could take it wherever we ended up. And but the lessons are so good, and there's everything you need. It's just so easy peasy for the group leaders to do, and they have a lot of in-person meetings as well.
Okay.
They're growing more and more. It started in Oklahoma, so there's a lot of them in Oklahoma. When we did have one in Illinois that we started, that was face-to-face as well, and another one of our members, when we moved, ended up taking it over. But like, we were the first one in Illinois. I don't know if there's any face-to-face in Missouri.
I don't know.
Man,
I don't
it's so
think,
needed.
So yeah, so I would really encourage anybody, if they would be interested in looking into that in their own community, in their own church, to start one. It's just really positive. And the website is findinghope.today.
Okay.
So instead of .com or anything, it's findinghope.today, all lowercase, all together. And that's where people can either find a group, sign up for a Zoom group, or consider starting one where they're at,
So if somebody was interested in starting one, what does that look like? I mean, if they may think, I don't think I could ever.
Oh yeah. Again,
what do you do?
They have some online training, and then they have a team, a coordinator and the executive director of Finding Hope. And these two ladies are just so great to come alongside you and answer any questions. They also have a mentoring program. So existing Finding Hope leaders can mentor new leaders if there's any questions.
And we've had a number of potential leaders who became leaders join our group just to participate and see how. And there are other Zoom groups. There's a Hope After Loss. There's a group.
Yes.
There's a group for people who've lost their loved ones who've died.
Yes.
There's that. That's a powerful one. And there's other groups, Zoom groups, and so anybody anywhere can, just about any day of the week, can find a group to be a part of.
How often do you all do your group?
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
And that's pretty much the Finding Hope model, is they meet twice a month.
Okay.
So whether you're in person or Zoom based.
And I'll tell you what, you can go through this thing and you think you've got it figured out, and you know how to get off that roller coaster. You know all that, you've seen the movies, you've done. And I'll tell you what, some can still come back and knock you off your socks.
I'm sure.
I think Gina's way more steady than I am. I'm more of the, okay, I want to hop on the roller coaster.
Well, and I think that's the case sometimes for men. Men are more fix it. I mean, we all, to a degree, want to fix it. But dads, they want to fix it. Yeah, that's what dads do.
But even though we lead a group, we're still going through it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we had a meeting last week, and I felt so much better after the meeting. It just, there's something about it. And I'll tell you what, one of the exercises we do every meeting is we do a thing called What's Your Number? And so it's between 1 and 10, 1 being the worst day of your life, 10 being the most incredible day of your life,
So it's a share time, which is very important, that you don't feel like you're just coming to learn and listen.
You're participating.
But you're participating and you're getting to share of, this great thing happened or this horrible thing happened.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, the people that come the first time, they're coming there because they're desperate. And they'll say, well, I'm a 2. It's life couldn't get much worse. I'd almost say 1. 1's almost like I'm going to slip my wrists, that kind of thing. So they'll say I'm a 2 or a 3 or whatever. But what I've noticed by observing is once you start getting these tools in your toolbox, as a matter of fact, that's our next lesson is how to build your tool
Recovery
belt.
tool belt.
Yeah,
That's
recovery
awesome.
tool belt. But once you get that tool belt and you've got the tools and you know where to go to bring sanity so that you can sleep at night, so that you can just go through your day and not be possessed by it. Get those things in place. Uh, those people that are a 2 or a 3, even later on, they'll show up and they'll say, "Man, I'm having an 8 this week, or this today. I'm having this and that." But then when something happens that normally would have took them back to a 2, we
get there.
never hear them go below 5.
I
5 or a
love
6.
that. Oh my goodness.
And so, and they don't even realize that, and so I try to point that out every once in a while.
That's
We
good.
had
And
a
so-
gal, 2 meetings ago, that she said, "I'm a 10." And we're like, a 10? I mean,
Wow,
that's just, and she
great.
said, and it's, not that much has changed. I mean, her son is in recovery. He's dual diagnosis though. So he has some mental health challenges as well, and she said, but even with that, she goes, what I've learned and what I've gained, I'm at a 10,
Wow.
and
Yep.
so it's just,
Oh my goodness.
it helps us really depend on the Lord, and big thing of knowing that even when we don't think God's working, he's always working.
Yeah.
And he loves our loved ones so much more than we do.
Mhm.
And we have to remember these groups, they're for us. They're not for our loved ones, but we cannot help our loved one unless we're healthy. We need to be healthy. We can't be healthy. Otherwise, if we're on that roller coaster with them, we're about the worst counselors we could ever. We're just going to react emotionally. We're not going to go to that tool belt. We're not going to be able to, frankly, talk the language. Let me tell you, our son and all these addicts who've been in rehab centers, they can teach us stuff. They've got their tool belts are full. They know all that. There's nothing we can say that they haven't heard.
Yeah.
So we need to, number one, not say something stupid.
Yeah.
We can't be the dumbest person in the room. When we've talked with our son, we've almost every time it's like, I'll start to say something and I'll say, look, I can't say anything you don't already know. But I'm going to say it because I need to say it.
Yeah.
And maybe remind you
dad.
that maybe, I'm a dad. I got to do that kind of thing. It just makes me feel better. It's all about me.
Yeah. Sometimes it
And
is.
sometimes it's not good to say everything that comes
That's
to your
right.
brain.
That
No,
would be
that's
the
right.
hard part.
Yeah, it is hard.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
And some of the things in the tool belt is, to learn how to respond and not react, what that looks like.
Yep.
How, what codependency is, how to
boundaries.
boundaries.
What are boundaries
exactly.
about? We talk
Yes.
about boundaries. Boundaries sounds like people are saying, okay, I
got to set the rules down then.
That's right. And then I've got to be sheriff and I've got to enforce those rules. And it
It's not
helps
that
with
at
the
all.
mindset of boundaries. And the fact is, okay, here's the boundary. And you can set any boundary you want. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you can enforce it, but you can set any boundary you want. But the bottom line is you have to have the mindset that it's them, it's that person, the addict's decision to cross that boundary.
And the boundary is our boundary.
Yeah.
So, for instance, you can't say, well, you're not allowed to bring alcohol or drink in our home. Well, actually, no, they can. I mean,
They can sneak it in.
They can sneak it in, and you can go in the next morning and see bottles everywhere and go,
How'd that
oh,
happen?
well, my boundary got crossed, or, we told him not to.
Yeah.
So you have to think of the boundary of it's for our safety. And so instead, that type of boundary would be, you know what, even if we suspect that you might be drinking, that makes us uncomfortable. And our house then becomes stressful. Our lives become stressful. So even if we're not sure, if we suspect it, that triggers us. So then we're going to you won't be able to live here anymore. So then they know that if they cross that boundary, that's the thing that could happen. And of course, they're going to come back with, well, you can't prove it. Yeah, we can't. But that wasn't part of the boundary. The boundary is how it made us feel. And when we feel uncomfortable, we have the right, because it's our home, to say, you cannot be here. We love you, but you cannot be here because we want our home to be our safe place, our respite, our calm,
Yeah.
without stress. And so we can only set boundaries for things we can control and then enforce those consequences. Because if you don't enforce it, well, don't even
do
do
it.
it
Yeah.
because
And and again, you got to understand, we have to, this is something we had to learn, because you trust your gut.
Yeah.
You trust your gut. If you think it's probably happened. God has given you these triggers as well.
Mhm.
And the Holy Spirit guides us.
Mhm.
And you know what? If we are wrong, it's like Gina said, it's like, well, I kind of think you're screwing up and you've crossed again, if we think they've crossed that boundary, well, that was their choice.
Yeah.
Even if all they did was set off that trigger, they did something to set off that trigger.
Mhm.
And you just have to say it was their choice to decide, okay, I'm not going to live here anymore. I would rather have a drink, or I'd rather use.
Yeah.
And just leave it at that. And that takes the guilt off of us.
Yeah.
And so anyway, there's so much to learn. There's so much to this.
Can you remember some of the first boundaries you set and how hard it was? Like, what was one that you kind of remember in the very beginning?
Well, you can't live here.
Mhm.
Was definitely one. And
I know that'd be hard.
It is. I mean,
it is hard because you're afraid of homelessness, and our son was homeless.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
and we
And
didn't know
you
where he
can't
was
even
at.
imagine,
Yes.
you know, but yet talk about having to really trust the Lord and
Mhm.
say, okay, we encourage people to really think about visually, when we give our loved one to Jesus, what does that look like? And I had one image that I thought was really good until one of our members came up with another one. But my image initially was, okay, think about Moses's mom. She had him as a baby, and she knew if he stayed in her home that he would die. There was no doubt about that. He was going to die. And for us, if we allowed Kyle to stay in our home and drink, and we just, but we don't want him to be homeless, and we don't want this, and we don't want him to, he'd eventually die if we allowed that to happen.
Really a great
and
visual.
So, but instead she put Moses in that river, and she had no idea. She didn't know if he would drown 3 minutes later, 30 minutes later. She didn't know, but she knew that staying with her was not an option, that was definitely heading the wrong place,
good.
And so, but then another one of our members, she came up with, she said, what I picture is not that I just put my loved ones at the feet of Jesus, but that they are in Jesus's arms and he's hugging them. And I want to intervene because I want to influence. And so I'm clawing my loved one, taking,
That's good.
undoing Jesus's arms, saying, no, I think I can do better, and I thought, I love that illustration, because that is how it is. We just are so constrained out of our love. And I think even as Christians, it's probably harder even for us, because we think, well, shouldn't we help?
Think unconditional means
yes,
you're doing everything,
right,
to control the situation.
Right.
And this whole thing,
we have no control.
And it goes against our instincts. Yeah. It goes against our instincts. We want to fix it. We want to help them. We don't want to let people suffer.
Yeah.
And the fact is, we need to, we're now at the point, I'm at the point of, if he messes up, I'm like, Lord, I ask you to give him a DUI, help him not to kill anybody, but whatever it takes to do it.
And that's a hard prayer,
that's a hard
to
prayer.
really pray sincerely to God, Lord, whatever it takes. And we're going to trust you of whatever that thing is,
and to hitchhike on what her story. There's also the story of the prodigal son, where the son comes to the dad and says, hey, I want all the money. I want to go. And he obviously had the resources. He could have chased his son down, but he didn't. And just like God does, he says, you want to go your way, you go your way. And let natural consequences take place. God created natural consequences. We also call it the gift of desperation.
Yeah.
We call it, and
that's
an AA
thing.
term.
Yeah.
but they need to have this gift of desperation.
And we do
And if-
too.
The problem is we have a tendency to step in and take
Mhm.
that opportunity away from God to do something. So
Yeah.
it feels like our instinct is don't let them suffer, but that's exactly what they need to feel.
When
Yeah.
you look in the word, I mean, every biblical
Mhm.
hero had that gift of desperation,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and had to go through that horrible, horrible thing that in most cases was very public,
Yeah.
before then God said, okay, now we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can change it. So even as loved ones, our gift of desperation is, all right, Lord, my hands are off,
Yeah.
and I'm just going to let you do what you need to do. And, I kind of have this vision now in my mind of a big whiteboard of my son's life, his journey. And instead of, because we tend to, oh, he's in rehab. Yay. Oh, he's been sober for 20 months. That's so great. These are all wonderful things that happen. And then when the bad thing happens, we're just like, oh,
Yeah.
But instead now I feel like there's a big whiteboard and it's his journey. And all these things, good and bad, are there. And when the bad happens, it's like, okay, good. We got that one checked off.
Oh,
We-
that's
we're-
good.
that's checked off. We're going to move on now.
Wow.
And we know, that I'm just participating in a very small way with God's plan
Yeah.
and God's journey for him. And fortunately, God's the guy of, plan B, C, D, E,
Yeah.
F,
Right.
and that,
That's so good.
yeah. So then I just know, okay,
That
God's
would
got
give you
this.
a 10 day.
Yeah. That's
If
true.
you could see it in that way,
Yeah.
it would always be a 10.
Yeah, because
Not that
it's
you
like,
don't
well,
have-
this is God's, God's got this. And
Yeah.
so, and if I really believe that God is sovereign,
Mhm.
then I have to believe that everything that happens, he knows about and he's working on.
Yeah.
And so therefore I need to be out of the way.
It kind of reminds me of having a posture of gratitude,
That's right.
Mhm.
because we think
Yeah.
of gratitude as like being thankful for this good thing, or
Yeah.
just being thankful. But like to have a posture of gratitude
Yes.
is when you got the whiteboard
right.
and it's the good and the bad, and you're still grateful.
Right.
You still have the gratitude
Yeah.
that God's at work.
Yeah. Because all things work together
Yeah.
for good for those who love him and are called.
Yeah.
So we just need to make sure that we love him
Yes.
and that we're called, that we're listening, and that we're being pliable
Yeah.
to whatever he wants. And then if we're doing that, we know that all
Yeah.
things work together.
And to me, also, I feel like what you're saying is that you're learning how to just rest
Mm-hmm.
in who God is
Mm-hmm.
and what he says he'll do. Because I was reading, I think it's in Matthew 11:13 or 13:11. I can't remember. But the scripture where it says, come to me, all you who are laden, I will give you rest. In the original language, it says, I will rest you.
Mm.
And I'm like, that is so good, because it's not about me resting,
Yes.
but he will rest me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When maybe I feel like I can't,
Yeah.
I'm so overwhelmed. All this is like not what I
Mhm.
expected, but
Mm-hmm.
just come to him and he will rest you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up to him.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you guys to say real quick about Kyle and his heart,
Mm-hmm.
because I want people to understand that God's looking at the heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the things Kyle has given into or
Mhm.
done or
Mm-hmm.
his addiction,
Mm-hmm.
but just talk about him and
Mhm.
his heart and who he is, because he just sounds
Mhm.
like a wonderful
He is.
young man.
He's amazing. And he has, like I said, always been tender to the Lord. And when he was 8, he was baptized in water submersion at our church. And this is so interesting to me looking back. But, the pastor said, do you believe that Jesus and he died for your sins? Yep. Yes, I do. Is there anything else you want to say, Kyle? And he said, yes. He said, I want everyone to know that I will never serve the devil. And everybody kind of chuckled, because like, oh, isn't that cute, that little 8-year-old boy saying that. But I believe that at that moment, Satan was like, "Oh yeah, buddy, game on,
Yeah.
game on."
Mm-hmm.
But the things that Kyle has done, I mean, he was in a program called Royal Rangers. It was like a faith-based Boy Scout type deal. And there was a regional powwow. And he would have been in middle school at this time. And I think, or maybe even 6th grade. I don't know, right in 6th, 7th grade, something like that. So after the end of the week, we go to pick him up, and they have their last powwow church type service. And we get there, and he's one of the speakers for this event. I mean, hundreds of people. And we're like, what? And just so eloquently talks about, what God did in his life, and, and in these other faith-based rehabs that he's been in. And it's so interesting because, he talks about how he has social anxiety, but yet he says when he gets up to speak to a group, there can be hundreds of people. He has no fear at all. He has just peace and calm. Yeah. Yeah. But it's because he's talking about the Lord, so he's not talking about himself or anything like that. So he has, even through all these years, all this time, there's a tenderness towards God and the things of God. And it's, so for a while, this would have been probably like when he was in college or whatever, we were both raised very legalistic, and really weren't taught as much about the grace of God and his mercy and that kind of thing. And looking back, as we raised our sons, we had more of that than how we were raised. But I do wish that I would have been less concerned about, I've learned the term is called sin management, that, we just need to make sure our kids aren't over there and they're not doing this. And instead of saying, when that happens, hey, let's sit down. Tell us what's going on in your heart. What's God saying to you, as opposed to saying, well, you're grounded and da-da-da, Yes. But fortunately, I think both our boys, they have that, and they in themselves and know that, just because I've done something wrong, that doesn't mean I'm forever separated from the Lord, Yes. And,
which is why the message I want people to really hear right now is that this hasn't separated him from God.
Right. Right.
And God looks at our heart.
Yes.
And his heart is obviously turned toward the Lord, but this is something in the brain. And I love that this is coming out, because it does take the blame off of anyone, which people live under such shame, as Kyle probably does.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
And Kyle has said, I don't know how anybody could ever become sober if without Jesus. He said he just said it'd be really impossible for him. So, and he has always made the choice of going to these faith-based places.
Yes.
We never picked any of those places for him. So that's where he always goes. And so anyway, it's a battle. It's a lifelong battle for him. And, he's one of again, when he's sober, he's one of the greatest people on the face of the earth. And when he's drinking, it's horrible. He's a different person. It's just a different person. So, and so you got to learn to love the person. You got to remember to love the person.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Good.
And we can't fix it. We didn't cause it. Gina's talking a minute ago about raising them legalistically or whatever. In my brain, though, what I've had to learn is that the Holy Spirit fills the gap between our stupidity.
Yes, he does.
And
when our heart was in the right place,
and the boys, both our boys said,
they
said, you raised us great. It's everything we've done. That was our choice. Those are our choices, so.
We do what we know to do at the time. And, I said a long time ago, God, if I could just do it all over again with my 2 older kids, I would be so much better. And so I got pregnant 11 years later.
Wow.
I really wasn't. And I was probably worse, But, we just do what we know to do the best we know.
That's right.
at
And
the
God
time.
honors
And
that.
yes, he does.
He honors
And
that.
he
One of
does.
the phrases, this isn't from Finding Hope, but Russell Brand, he used to be the comedian, who was married to Katy Perry and had that very addicted, wild lifestyle. And he's clean now. He's no longer an addict. And actually, in recent years, he's become a Christian. But one of his phrases, I watch him on YouTube and stuff. And one of my favorite phrases, because he says a lot of times people will say to him, okay, my child or my husband or whatever is an addict or an alcoholic. What do I say to them? And he says, you tell them that I will help you change, but I will not help you stay the same. I will help you change, but I won't help you stay the same. And it's such a simple concept, but I feel like, wow.
Yeah.
Because then that makes it easy to say, okay, is doing this helping my loved one change, or is it helping them stay the same?
That's good.
And
it stops the enabling.
Good way to judge. Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that, and then, as you said, that gratitude, because then, and just looking at times where without a doubt that God has been there. I mean, we had a situation with Kyle. He was working in St. Louis at the time and was doing pretty good.
Oh my. Yeah.
And he was working for a company, and he had gotten promoted. And so now he was on a sales call, and his boss called us. We were living an hour away. His boss called us fuming because Kyle missed that appointment. I don't know where he is, but I think he's drunk and,
driving around.
Yeah, driving around. And he said he's got his dog with him. He dearly loves his dog. And so we're like, okay, and he said, I just wanted you to know. So we hang up from that phone call and we're like, all right, generally, this is one of those times where it's like, okay, Lord, natural consequence, but then of course we start thinking, but what if he would hurt someone else,
And we think of the odds. He's in St. Louis.
Yes. We have no idea where he's at.
We're an hour away. How in the world are we ever going to find him?
Right.
We had no idea how, but I looked at Gina, because our thing was, what, let consequences happen. But then I looked at her and I said, if he's in a wreck and kills somebody and I haven't even tried, I'm going to go. So she said, yeah, I agree with you. So we hopped in the truck and started heading over.
And we just prayed. We prayed, Lord, this is of you. This needs to be of you. So if we are to find him, you're going to help us find him quickly. We're not going to be driving around for 2 or 3 hours trying to find him, because then we're going to know that, no, you want to do what you want to do and we need to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we get over there and we knew where his apartment was. So we kind of drove the streets around there, didn't see anything. And so then it was like, okay, where do we go now? So, again, the odds are what? How are we going to find him?
Yeah.
Gina,
we're just looking on Google Maps, and I'm like, well, he's got his dog and it looks like there's a park a couple miles from here. Let's go to the park. Maybe he's at this park,
smart. Yeah.
So we go over there and drive around, and in 5 minutes, we were like, okay, he's not here. What do we do next? She looks on there again. Well, there's another park about 5 miles away. So we start heading towards that park. And then as we're on our way down this road,
pretty major road.
Yeah, pretty major road. And it's
part of Kirkwood, which is a part of St. Louis. Yeah.
And so we're heading down this road, heading east. And Gina goes, there's a 7-Eleven there. And it's one of these old 7-Elevens, been there for 100 years. And there's like 5 parking spaces. It's like, didn't see his car, but I said, yeah, so what? And she goes, I don't know. There's a 7-Eleven there. And so I drive another about a half a block and like, okay, let's turn around. So we turned around and went back in and pulled in the lot. And yeah, his car's not there. Then there was this little drive around the backside. And we ran around there and pulled around there. And there he was.
There he is.
He had hidden. Gosh. He had driven his car and he was under some bushes and trees and was passed out. And he had done, he was there. He was hiding there. There's no way to see it any other if we hadn't gone around. I mean, all that to say, what are the odds of that?
Yes.
And that was totally within 20 minutes.
Literally within 20 minutes from the time we started looking.
Yes.
And so
And so that was one of the times of, and of course his dog was like, I'm so happy you guys are
I
here.
gotta go to the bathroom.
But we
Yeah.
said, hey, is this what you want? And, so it was like, okay, well, we won't help you stay the same, but we will help you change. And so
Actually, that was when he went into Harris' house.
yeah, he came
Okay.
home and he got sober,
Yeah.
or detoxed.
He chose to go. We said, we'll turn you loose, but we're keeping your dog, but you can
yes,
go
because
whatever.
we said, you're not taking care of her, and that's not right. So we are taking her, but you do, and we also said we're not giving your keys right now, so
Yeah.
we will.
I drove his car home.
Yeah, we'll drive your car home, and you can go stay home, or you can come with us. And
So the next day, he decided to go into rehab.
Mhm.
Anyway.
So, but
Yeah.
those kind of moments,
Yeah.
that we have to always hang on to those moments. And when we think, oh, doesn't seem like anything good's really happening, to go back and go, who would have ever thought?
Yeah, no,
I
God
mean, that
directed
was
me.
yeah. And so that we know
that's so
God
good.
is chasing down our loved
Yeah.
ones if we're
All the
praying
time.
for them.
All the
Yes.
time, even though we don't see it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Even though we don't see it, you have to understand that.
I agree.
He's always there.
Yes.
So
Yeah. I've listened to some near-death experiences with like a 4-hour podcast.
mhm.
And there was in a lot of instances where people were not serving God. They were,
Mhm.
living whatever life. And they had a near-death experience. And almost every one of them, when they met Jesus, when they came back, they said basically what they recognized was that Jesus had been there with them through it all.
Mhm.
Through some things in their childhood that
Yeah.
happened to them and all
Yeah.
that. And it was such a revelation that he'd
Yep.
always been there.
Yep.
Mhm. Mhm. I
And
love that.
even
Yeah.
when they weren't
Right. Cognizant.
serving him,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
whatever we decide is
Right.
the
Yeah.
Christian way,
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, he's always there.
Mhm. And those
Always
things
there.
that we think are horrible, a lot of times they're gifts, and that gives us
Yeah.
that gift of desperation
Mhm.
to serve him. So
Yeah.
turn things
And those
around.
characters of the Bible, they did way worse things.
Oh my goodness.
And not only the drunkenness, they were rape and murder and you name it, man. I mean, they did
Yes.
it all. I mean,
Mhm.
David was God's own heart or whatever,
Yeah.
and yet, wow, he
Oh
did
my
some really
goodness.
nasty things.
Yeah.
You would think if anybody couldn't be forgiven, it'd be him,
Yes.
but he wasn't.
But he
was-
always had a heart towards God.
That's
even
right.
in the
That's
midst
right.
of all that.
That's right.
That's right.
And that's such a message, that we just,
And that's what I love about the Bible. It tells all the dirty stuff.
it does.
It doesn't hide it.
No,
It's not. You'd
doesn't.
think if we had to, I worked for a magazine. If we, that's stupid. It's a Christian magazine. I'll tell you what, we would never talk
Tell the
about
whole story.
Yeah, never. Are you kidding me? Why would you write about this guy?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, we had it was almost a policy not to talk about
But
personalities.
even go back to you and leaving that meeting.
Yeah.
And feeling like you couldn't even be open about what
Right.
was happening in your
Yes.
life with
Right.
the church.
Right.
And,
Right.
us being the church.
Yes.
And that's like, it's
So
how
sad.
it is.
Yeah.
It is, and now
Just-
we've learned. Anybody we bring it up to, I mean, they're like, "Oh man."
Yes.
A lot of times, pastors say, "Well, my son's off the rails,"
Yeah.
or my daughter is, or
Yes.
my spouse, or whatever.
And
My mom, my
Because
dad.
when we talk about it, then other people feel the
Yes, I
freedom to
know,
also
it
talk
does
about it.
bring
And so what you're
freedom.
doing here is so good.
Yeah, and
you
if
know?
you like go back to what I said before, if an addict affects that many lives, 26, 27 lives, I mean significantly, why in the world are we so stupid and being shy about it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's pride is what
It's
it comes
pride.
down
most
to.
definitely
It's about
is
pride.
And
Yeah.
Satan loves it. He's
Yep.
like, oh yeah, all
Mhm.
these Christians are keeping their little secrets.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they're not getting better, and they're not.
Yeah. And when we are keeping those secrets, we're not fully serving, we're not
No.
really fully giving everything, we
Right.
have to
Mhm.
ministering,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
we're,
Here's the other side of it. To any Christians are watching this is don't be critical of people whose families
That's right.
that's
are
so-
dealing with this, because there's a lot of people not coming to Finding Hope. We've had them tell us they do not come because they don't want other people to find out,
wow.
because they're still trying to protect their loved one.
Yeah.
And it's the sickest
Yeah.
It makes me mad.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. It
Mhm.
just makes me mad
Mhm.
that we live like
that
that.
we
Yeah.
attack our own.
Yeah.
Should
Yeah.
never do
Yeah.
that.
No, but we sure do.
Mhm.
Makes us feel better, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah.
Or
Which it
we
really
think it
doesn't.
does,
Yeah.
but it doesn't.
Yeah.
But thinks it makes us look better.
Mhm.
Well, I love what you're doing. And I love that you share your story with people and you are offering so much hope.
Mhm.
And I just, man, I just encourage you, if you're out here and you're struggling with some of the things they've talked about, you have a loved one that's addicted to something, join their group. Again, tell them how they can find you guys.
findinghope.today. So that's the URL. So if you just put that in your browser, findinghope.today, and you'll be able to get all the
Will
information.
they be able to find you guys?
Well,
if
what'll
it's somebody-
happen is somebody from their office in Oklahoma will talk to them, probably call them back, and or they'll at least get an email, and it'll say, you can find the groups online.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
Yeah,
but
all
the,
the groups
but
are
as
on
far
there.
as the Zoom address, they can't get that online. That has to be sent to them.
Okay.
It's a confidentiality
Yes. Good.
reason. So they will send them a link, and they can be a part of our group or one of the other Zoom groups.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
yeah, it's a good
Or
thing.
start your own group.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Face-to-face
That's
group.
true.
There's such a need. And again, it's not hard. It's so easy because they just provide everything. I mean, it's not like you have to study for 3 hours before your meeting or anything like that. They just provide everything. They give you the PowerPoint presentation, the lesson guide, everything is there. So it makes
That's
it so
great.
convenient.
What do you say to the person that's like, I just don't want to have to talk. I don't want to have to share my
We
They don't
plans.
have
I
to.
would love to sit in on this.
That's
Oh,
what,
absolutely.
That is not unusual. That we'll, even on the numbers things, we'll tell people if you're new, well, even if you're not new,
Mhm.
our old people know that they can just say, pass, I'm just not up for it today.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
we just tell people that you can just listen in. There's been times on Zoom that they won't turn on their
their camera.
The
camera,
video. Yeah.
and they will not put their name in the
Mhm.
little, it'll just maybe say, like, one was the
iPhone.
letter A, or
Yeah.
iPhone or something. And we'll say, hey, just put in the chat, if you're just wanting to listen in tonight, then we're going to totally respect that. And that's not unusual. And that's good.
That's good
That's
to know.
really-
And sometimes people need to do that even for several meetings,
Yeah.
before they can really feel like that, oh, okay, I think I'm ready to say something now.
And there's
Yes.
others that come on with that's their intent, and before the meeting's over, it's like, okay, they
Yeah.
realize they found their tribe.
Yeah.
There's nothing that be said on there that we can't relate to or understand or haven't heard
Yeah.
before.
Mhm.
It's we all lived it. We all are living it, and so there's no surprises.
Yeah.
And they realize that it's like, okay, I guess I can talk.
Yeah, and I think with you all being a leader, I'm sure all the leaders are this way. They're recognizing you're walking the same walk.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Yes.
And that-
yeah.
That
Yep.
makes it. It's not somebody
Yes.
who's just has an understanding.
Right.
This is
Right.
people who are walking it.
Right.
Oh no, yeah,
And-
and as leaders, I mean, we're in the numbers too. Then we'll say, man, I'm having a 5 or a 6.
Yeah,
I'm not having a good
Yeah,
time.
we don't
we
pretend.
don't pretend
Yeah.
to be.
that's
Mm.
awesome.
That's stupid.
I love it.
That's
Yes.
it's about being honest.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
And anybody, like we touched on earlier, if you've had a loved one that has passed away because of addiction, there is, and it'll still be on findinghope.today, but those are called Hope After Loss groups. And those are amazing, because sadly, there's a stigma that a lot of people have when you've lost a loved one to addiction. It's not unlike if someone loses a loved one from suicide. People don't know how to react. They don't
Yeah.
know what to say,
Mhm.
and so oftentimes they don't say anything and they kind of pull away. And so a lot of times, the people are grieving in a silo or by themselves, where I know that Hope After Loss, they really emphasize of talk about your loved ones. What were they like when they were 3? What happened when they were 10? And just talking
yeah.
about the joy that their loved ones gave.
Mhm.
And so, it's a place where they can really grieve together, but, also have that celebration,
Yeah.
of the lives that they were
we've
allowed
had
to be a part of.
yeah.
we've had several that have in our group that have,
Their
to
loved
come to-
ones have
that they
passed.
passed there. We had a couple last year
Mhm.
that lost, but they're still coming to, they don't come to every meeting, but they still come. We're like
When
family.
the topics
Oh,
really
that's awesome.
still,
So it
applies.
does
And
really form a connection.
it
and a
does.
Oh,
family.
Yeah.
man.
You
Yeah.
called it a tribe. I think
Yes. Yes.
everybody's
it's a
kind of looking
family.
for their tribe,
Mhm.
especially
Mhm.
dealing with different things where you
Right.
feel like you're kind of alone, or
Right.
the people around you don't relate because maybe they're not walking it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Their life looks different than yours,
Mhm,
like my
mhm.
girlfriend with the Christmas and the holidays.
Yes.
And,
Yes. Yeah.
even talking about grandchildren, things like that.
Right,
It's
right.
just,
Yeah. Because
And-
there's a lot of things you grieve.
Yeah,
You grieve
yes.
of what you thought was going to
Yes.
be your loved one's life.
Yeah.
Or your life. If it's your spouse, and it's like, wow, I did not think this is how my marriage was going to be, or
Mhm.
how it was going to end up. So there's a lot of grief of just
Dying. Things have died.
Yeah.
Dreams
Yeah.
have died.
dreams have
Yeah.
died, and all of that. And
Mhm.
but to a degree, again, I'm grateful for that, because now it's truly is, Lord, it's your will, it's not mine.
Yeah.
I don't have that pride of, well, my son's this or that. For
Yeah.
a long time I had that. When my friends' kids that were graduates, of
Mhm.
friends of my sons, and they're, oh, well, they got married and they're this and they're making six figures now. And it's like, you know what? In reality,
Yeah.
none of that matters.
Yeah.
What matters, like you said, is the heart.
Yeah.
That's
And
what
it's a
matters.
journey. That's where
It's
we
a
end up.
journey.
It's about eternity. This
It
is
is
a,
about eternity.
this is a vapor.
Yes. Yes.
Sure
This life is a
is.
vapor. So
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so good. You all are helping a lot of people.
Oh, well, so are you.
And
Only
that
because people
is-
like you
Well, thank
Well,
you.
give
I'm
us
telling
a
you.
Thank you for
reason
letting
to-
us share.
It's easy to just sit and wallow in
Yeah.
things that we are going through. And so to be able to
Mhm.
say, I'm going to help people in the midst of
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
grieving
Mhm.
and journey,
Mhm.
it's a lot. It takes strong people.
Mhm.
And so
Well,
I'm thankful for you
I
guys.
don't know. It takes surrendered people. I don't think it
Oh,
takes
that's
strong people.
good.
It doesn't take strong people.
That's really good.
That's because we're wimps at heart.
I don't think so, but that's good. Surrendered people. That's so good. Well, thank you guys so much
Thank
for
you.
being on. And I'm just so happy that I've met you all and you've just
Yeah.
added to my
Well,
life.
thank you.
Oh, thank
And
you.
that's one of my favorite things. Findinghope.today, right?
Mhm.
Findinghope.today. I will put that in some notes on here so that you can refer back to this and share this with people that you know is struggling, that's going through the same type of journey. Share this story with them. And I hope that you guys are flooded with people wanting to be a part of your group and wanting to heal and have more of those 10 number 10 days.
That's right. Yeah.
And we can have those when we have one another. And that's why, the word talks so much about fellowshipping together. We need each other. We need to share our burdens with one another. That's how we heal
Mhm.
and how we get through things is with one another. And so thank you for all you're doing. And
you.
I just pray blessings on your ministry as
Thank
you share with people and help so many people on their journey. And pray for Kyle.
Mm.
Those of you especially who are going through this journey, sometimes it's good for us to pray for others
Mm.
that are going through the journey. It kind of gets things off of ourselves.
Mhm.
So, and if you're going through that journey, you probably know how to pray for Kyle.
Mm.
So pray for Kyle and be a part of this Finding Hope. And with that, thank you guys again for listening. And I know you received some great truth today and some helpful things that are going to help you on your journey. So anyway, just remember you are loved. So be loved. Let him love you. And have a great day.